Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to tackle the absolute foundations of nutrition science. You know, the textbook stuff, the core principles, the things you really need to grasp.
Exactly. Our mission today is to take this, well, pretty dense information and boil it down for you, give you that solid overview.
Because the world of nutrition, it just keeps expanding, doesn't it? So having these basics down is crucial.
Absolutely. We're going to break down the core principles, talk about nutrients, what a healthy diet actually looks like according to the science, and how we even measure nutritional health, straight from the source material.
Okay, so let's dive in. The 10 principles of human nutrition. I found these fascinating because they feel so foundational, yet some are quite specific.
They really are the bedrock.
Yeah.
And maybe the most profound one, I think, is number 3. Health problems related to nutrition. They start inside your cells.
Right. It's not just about weight or energy levels initially. It's micro level.
Deficiency, excess.
Right.
The actual problem begins at that cellular function level. It really grounds the whole field.
It does. And then thinking more practically, principle 10, no good or bad foods. That one always sparks debate, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. But the principle is sound. It's about the context, the amount you eat, your overall dietary pattern, not labeling foods morally.
It pushes you to think about nutrient density, physiological effect, rather than just judging the food itself.
Exactly. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of nutrients, we have to talk about context, and that's food security.
Yeah, you can't really talk about applying nutrition science if people don't have reliable access to food in the first place.
Food security means having access consistently at all times to enough safe and nutritious food. Anything less is food insecurity.
And the numbers are stark. It's not a small problem.
Not at all. We're talking about 10.5% of U.S. households, 15.9% in Canada, and it hits some groups much harder.
Like the stats for Black households in the U.S. or Indigenous peoples in Canada, they're significantly higher, right?
Way higher. Around 21% for Black households in the U.S. and over 30% for Indigenous peoples in Canada. It really highlights that nutrition isn't just biology. It's deeply tied to social and economic factors, systemic issues.
Absolutely crucial context. Okay, so with that groundwork laid, let's get to the building blocks. Nutrients and the calorie. Everyone talks about calories.
Right, but let's be super clear. A calorie isn't a nutrient. It's just a unit of energy from food. That's it.
The actual nutrients fall into 6 categories.
Yep. Carbohydrates, proteins, fats or lipids, vitamins, minerals, and water. Those are the 6 essential groups for growth, function, everything.
And within those, the key distinction is essential versus non-essential.
That's fundamental.
Yeah.
Essential nutrients are the ones your body can't make enough of, or maybe can't make at all. You have to get them from your diet.
Like certain amino acids from protein.
Exactly. 9 essential amino acids and 2 essential fatty acids. Linoleic acid, which is an omega-6, and alpha-linolenic acid, an omega-3.
And our need for these varies a lot.
Hugely. Based on age, sex, if you're growing, if you're sick, pregnancy, even your genetics play a role. It's very individual.
So, how do scientists even set recommendations for the whole population then, with all that variation?
That's where the Dietary Reference Intakes, the DRIs, come in. It's kind of the umbrella term for all the nutrient standards for healthy people.
Okay, DRIs. And under that umbrella?
You've got 3 main levels to know. First, the RDAs, recommended dietary allowances. These aim to meet the needs of like 98% of healthy folks. They're based on pretty solid evidence.
And if the evidence isn't quite as strong?
Then you get the AIs, or adequate intakes. Think of them as sort of tentative RDAs. Still good guidance, but based on less conclusive data.
Got it. RDA, AI, and the third one. This seems really important today.
The UL, tolerable upper intake level. This is your safety ceiling. Especially important with supplements everywhere. Go above the UL, and the risk of adverse effects, even toxicity, starts to climb.
So don't exceed the UL from food and supplements combined.
Correct. And all these DRIs, RDAs, AIs, ULs, they get translated into something practical for consumers.
The daily values, the DVs on food labels.
Exactly. The DVs give you context on the nutrition facts panel. Like, it'll show that the DV for total fat is 78 grams, or for sodium, it's 2,300 milligrams, so you can see how one serving fits into a whole day's recommendation.
Makes sense. Okay, let's get into the macronutrients then, the energy providers, starting with carbs. 4 calories per gram.
Right, our main fuel. We have simple sugars like glucose or table sugar, sucrose, and complex ones, the polysaccharides, starches, glycogen, and fiber.
Let's talk about fiber. It gives almost no energy, right? Like 2 calories per gram.
Yeah, negligible energy because we don't really digest it. Its main job is adding bulk for, well, elimination. But the health impacts are bigger.
How so?
Fiber slows down how quickly glucose gets absorbed into your blood. That's huge for managing blood sugar levels, insulin response, really important stuff. Might help prevent heart disease too.
And that glucose absorption rate, that connects to the glycemic index, right? The GI.
Precisely. The GI ranks foods based on how fast they raise blood glucose. It's become a really useful tool, especially for people managing type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance.
So what's the general recommendation for carbs?
It's a pretty wide range, 45 to 65% of your total daily calories. But, and this is key, less than 10% of those calories should come from added sugars.
Limit the added stuff. Got it. Okay, next up, protein. Also 4 calories per gram.
The builder. Amino acids from protein build muscle, bone, enzymes, red blood cells, you name it.
And when we talk about protein quality,
We're essentially asking, does it have a good mix of all 9 essential amino acids? Animal proteins, meat, eggs, dairy usually score high. They're complete.
plant proteins are often incomplete on their own.
Most are, yeah. Soybeans are a notable exception for adults.
Yeah.
But usually you need to combine plant foods like eating grains with beans to get that full essential amino acid profile. Complex-free proteins.
And severe deficiency, especially in kids, leads to conditions like kwashiorkor.
Yes, a devastating form of protein energy malnutrition.
With all the high protein diets popular now, how does the recommended range 10 to 35% of energy fit in? That seems like a huge range.
It is wide, but it holds up. It allows for those variations based on activity level, muscle goals, etc. Staying within that range ensures you meet your body's structural needs without, say, putting too much strain on your kidneys.
All right, last macronutrient. Fats or lipids, 9 calories per gram. That's dense.
Incredibly energy dense, great for storing energy. But fats do way more. They're part of every cell membrane needed to make certain hormones, and crucially, they carry fat-soluble vitamins.
We need fat to absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K, and we also need those 2 essential fatty acids.
Linoleic acid, omega-6, and alpha-linolenic acid, omega-3. We absolutely must get those from our diet.
And those omega-3s, especially the derivatives EPA and DHA, they're vital for brain and eye health.
Absolutely critical for the central nervous system and the retina, which makes it concerning.
That intake is often low.
Yeah, particularly in the U.S. Average intake of EPA and DHA can be around just 100 milligrams a day, often falling short of recommendations.
We also hear a lot about saturated versus unsaturated fats.
The difference is chemical structure double bonds. Unsaturated fats have at least one double bond. Saturated fats have none. Generally, saturated fats tend to raise LDL cholesterol, the bad kind. Unsaturated fats often help lower it.
And then there were trans fats.
Ah, yes. Artificial trans fats, created by hydrogenating vegetable oils to make them solid. These were particularly bad news.
Worse than saturated fats for LDL cholesterol.
Even worse, yes. They significantly raised LDL. That's why the FDA took action to ban artificial trans fats from the food supply, effective around 2020.
So the recommendations reflect that. Keep total fat between 20 to 35% of calories.
And keep saturated fats specifically to about 10% or less of your total calories. And interestingly, there isn't really a specific recommendation to limit dietary cholesterol intake anymore because our bodies make most of what we need anyway.
Fascinating. Okay, let's shift from the energy providers to the helpers. Micronutrients. Vitamins first. You mentioned fat-soluble versus water-soluble.
Right. Think of it like storage space. Fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K get stored in your liver and fat tissues. You have like a big storage closet for them.
Which means you can build up toxic levels if you take too many supplements.
Exactly. Toxicity is a real risk with high-dose fat-soluble vitamin supplements. Water-soluble vitamins, on the other hand, the B-complex vitamins and vitamin C have very limited storage, like a tiny locker.
So you need them more regularly.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
They get used up or excreted relatively quickly. Their main job is acting as coenzymes, helping metabolic reactions happen.
And deficiency symptoms can show up faster, too, like for vitamin C, irritability, bleeding gums.
Yes, because those stores are small. Scurvy symptoms can appear relatively quickly with severe C deficiency.
Okay, vitamins. Then we have minerals.
15 essential minerals are required.
Right.
Things like calcium, phosphorus, iron, zinc, sodium, potassium, the list goes on.
And their jobs.
Very diverse. Forming hard structures like bones and teeth, calcium, phosphorus. Involved in nerve signals and muscle contraction, sodium, potassium, calcium. Maintaining fluid balance and the body's acid-base balance.
Right. And then the nutrient we often forget is a nutrient,
Yeah.
water.
Arguably the most essential. makes up 60 to 70% of our body weight. It's the medium for almost all chemical reactions, crucial for transporting nutrients, getting rid of waste, and regulating body temperature.
How much do we actually need?
Recommendations are pretty high. Around 15 to 16 cups a day for men, 11 cups for women, but that includes water from food and beverages.
And the easiest way to check if you're getting enough.
Keep an eye on your urine color. Pale yellow generally means you're well hydrated. Darker yellow suggests you need more fluids.
Simple enough. What about phytochemicals? Are they nutrients?
Technically, no. They're non-nutrient compounds found in plants, like pigments that give fruits and vegetables their color. Things like lycopene in tomatoes or flavonoids in berries.
But they seem beneficial.
Many act as antioxidants, protecting cells from damage. The evidence suggests health benefits come from eating the whole foods rich in these compounds, though, not necessarily from taking isolated phytochemical supplements. Eat your fruits and veggies.
Good advice. Okay, let's loop back to that core idea. Principle 3, health problems starting in the cells. How does this play out with malnutrition?
Malnutrition is just that imbalance, too little or too much of a nutrient. When you have a deficiency, it's a cascade. First, your intake is inadequate. Then your body's tissue reserves get depleted.
Then it shows up in blood tests.
Right, blood levels drop. Then cellular functions start getting impaired because the nutrient isn't there to do its job. And only after all that do you usually see the outward physical signs and symptoms.
And sometimes that damage is permanent.
Sadly, yes. If the cellular impairment goes on too long, the damage can be irreversible, like the blindness caused by severe, prolonged vitamin A deficiency.
And it's not always just about what you eat or don't eat. There's secondary malnutrition.
Correct. Primary malnutrition is purely dietary. Secondary malnutrition happens when some other condition, maybe a disease like Crohn's, a surgery, or even certain medications, or something like chronic alcoholism, prevents your body from absorbing or using the nutrients you do consume.
This all points towards nutrition being incredibly individual, doesn't it? Which leads us to nutrigenomics.
Exactly. Nutrigenomics is this fascinating field studying how nutrients interact with our genes, how nutrients affect gene expression, and how our individual genetic makeup affects how we process and need nutrients.
So one size fits all definitely doesn't apply?
Not at all. It explains why requirements vary so much. We see extreme examples with genetic disorders like PKU, phenylketonuria, or hemochromatosis, iron overload. Diet has to be strictly managed because of a specific genetic variation affecting nutrient metabolism.
And our nutritional status isn't just a snapshot in time, right? There's a life course perspective.
Absolutely. Your nutritional health at one stage of life directly impacts your health later on. For example, building strong bones with enough calcium and vitamin D in your youth helps prevent osteoporosis decades later.
And some groups are just more vulnerable to poor nutrition.
Yes, certain populations are at higher risk. Pregnant and breastfeeding women, infants, young children, frail, older adults, people who are ill, and definitely people living with low income and facing food insecurity.
It's sobering to connect poor diets directly to the leading causes of death.
Heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, stroke, there's a strong link. The common dietary patterns contributing to these chronic diseases often involve low intakes of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, fiber.
And high intakes of calories, added sugars, saturated and trans fats, and sodium.
Right. This combination can promote chronic inflammation and oxidative stress at the cellular level, which underlies many of these diseases over time.
When we think about planning diets, we also have to respect cultural and religious patterns, don't we?
Absolutely essential. Traditional diets are often incredibly nutrient-rich and well-balanced. Think about Mediterranean diets, traditional Asian diets, and religious guidelines like Jewish kosher laws, Islamic halal practices, or the vegetarianism common among Seventh-day Adventists. These provide established frameworks for healthy eating within cultural contexts.
Okay, so if we need to figure out one person's nutritional status, how is that done? What's involved in a nutrition assessment?
It's typically a four-part process, sometimes called the ABCD model. A is for anthropometric measurements.
Height, weight, body fat percentage,
Yep.
stuff like that.
Exactly. Measuring body size. Requires trained people and good equipment for accuracy. B is for biochemical data.
Lab tests.
Yep, blood tests, urine tests. Measuring nutrient levels directly, like hemoglobin or ferritin for iron status, or blood glucose. In the future, this B part will likely include your nutrigenomic profile too.
Okay, ABC.
C is for clinical or physical assessment. Basically, a visual inspection by a trained professional, looking for physical signs of deficiency or excess, like pale skin, brittle hair, changes in the eyes or gums.
And D?
D is for dietary assessment, finding out what the person actually eats. This uses tools like 24-hour dietary recalls, food records kept over several days, or food frequency questionnaires that ask about usual intake over a longer period. Getting accurate dietary data is challenging but crucial.
Makes sense. ABCD. So pulling all this knowledge together, the principles, the nutrients, the assessment, what defines a healthy dietary pattern overall?
It really comes back to Principle 9, adequacy, variety, and balance. Healthy patterns generally emphasize plant foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds. They include lean proteins, low-fat or fat-free dairy, or alternatives. And importantly, they limit added sugars, sodium, saturated fats, and avoid trans fats.
We hear about energy-dense versus nutrient-dense foods. Can you break that down?
Sure. Energy density refers to the number of calories in a given weight or volume of food. High energy density means lots of calories packed into a small amount. Think oils, nuts, fried foods.
And nutrient density.
That's about how many beneficial nutrients, vitamins, minerals, fiber, protein you get relative to the calories. Nutrient-dense foods give you lots of nutritional bang for your caloric buck. Examples are vegetables, fruits, lean meats, beans, low-fat dairy.
So the goal is mostly nutrient-dense foods.
Generally, yes, to meet your nutrient needs without exceeding calorie limits. But remember Principle 10, an energy-dense food like ice cream isn't inherently bad. If an active person has met their nutrient needs and has room in their calorie budget, it can fit. Context matters.
Context is key. And tools like food labels help provide that context, right? The Nutrition Facts Panel.
Hugely important. Mandated by the Nutrition Labeling and Education Act, NLEA. The newer label format makes calories and serving sizes more prominent. And crucially, it now lists added sugars separately, plus vitamin D and potassium, which are often low in American diets.
That added sugars line seems like a big deal for awareness.
It is. Helps people distinguish sugars naturally present in foods like fruit or milk from sugars added during processing. We also need to differentiate enrichment from fortification.
Okay, what's the difference?
Enrichment is specifically adding back certain B vitamins, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, folic acid, and iron that are lost when grains are refined, like when making white flour.
So it's replacing what was removed.
Exactly. Fortification, on the other hand, is adding nutrients that weren't originally there, or adding them in larger amounts, like adding vitamin D to milk, iodine to salt, or folic acid being mandatory in enriched grains now to prevent birth defects.
Both sound like important public health strategies.
They've dramatically reduced rates of deficiency diseases, absolutely.
Finally, circling back to where we started access, public policy plays a role here with food programs.
Definitely. Programs like SNPay, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, are the largest federal aid helping low-income individuals and families afford food.
And WIC?
WIC, the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, specifically targets low-income pregnant women, new mothers, and young kids who are at nutritional risk. It provides food assistance, nutrition education, and healthcare referrals.
And it's effective.
Highly effective. Studies show WIC participation improves birth outcomes and child health. There's data showing every dollar spent on WIC prenatal services saves over $3 in later Medicaid costs. It's a smart investment.
These programs support broader national goals too, right? Like Healthy People 2030.
Yes, Healthy People sets national objectives for improving health, including reducing obesity, improving dietary habits, increasing physical activity across the lifespan.
And tools like MyPlate.gov translate the dietary guidelines into simple advice.
Exactly. MyPlate gives that easy visual cue. Make half your plate fruits and vegetables, move to low-fat or fat-free dairy, choose lean proteins, make half your grains whole grains. Simple, actionable messages based on all this science.
Okay, quite a journey through the fundamentals. Can you maybe synthesize the biggest takeaways for us?
Sure. I think it boils down to a few key things. One, nutrition is fundamentally a cellular science. It all starts there. Two, nutrient needs are highly individual, influenced by genetics, life stage, health status. The era of nutrigenomics is really highlighting this. Three, healthy dietary patterns emphasize variety, balance, adequacy, with a strong base of plant foods while limiting those excesses, added sugars, saturated fats, sodium.
That's a really solid framework built right from the textbook foundations. And maybe a final thought to leave our listeners with. While we've spent this time focused on the science of what to eat, We can't forget that foundational piece about access. The fact that food insecurity impacts so many people underscores that nutrition isn't just about individual choices or biochemistry. It's deeply connected to policy, equity, and ensuring everyone has the opportunity to be well-nourished.
Well said. It's the necessary foundation for everything else we discussed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this overview helps you solidify your understanding and be well prepared. Thanks for tuning in.